everyone. Thanks for tuning to Sims Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, today we are going to be reviewing The Lightstruck by Sunyamura. So this is the sequel to The Darkening, and I loved the, I liked The Darkening a lot. You know, I do want to say I loved it. It's been a while since I read it, and I remember having fond memories of it. You know, the icons, the world building, the magic, it was all really, really solid, and I did like the characterization. I love those character dynamics and how the story, like, developed. My problem with the sequel is it felt too much like the first book. In the first book, you have Vesper, and, you know, she enemy lover. She infiltrates the palace. She's trying to rescue her father. And what she does is they embark into the storm. So the city is like this, you know, with rings. You know, every class is a ring, right? There's a storm on the outside, and it's slowly shrinking in that city. This time around, it's no longer the goddess of the storm. It's the god who used to inhabit the royal line, right? Now he is shrinking the city from the inside out. It just seemed like the story was exactly the same, except instead of battling the goddess, this time we're battling the god. And you still had those very similar character dynamics. I do want to say this. I think the romance in the first book was better developed. You really don't see Vesper and... Let me make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Dalka. You really don't get to see much of their romance, which in hindsight, it kind of makes sense for the story because this one focuses more on Vesper. You know, she has the goddess within her. She's trying to tame this power. She's trying to make it her own without letting the goddess just control her the way her, I guess, ex-husband, the god, would control the royal lineage by, you know, pretty much taking away their identity and locking them within their mind. So she has a mutual relationship with the goddess. It is different, but the story is more about Vesper really coming into her own. Because if you remember that first book, she really was very unsure of herself, very insecure. In this one, she wakes up after being asleep for 3 years. There's a lot of compartmentalizing for her character, which I think hinders her development a lot. That's not to say she doesn't develop. She does. She finally, you know, discovers that she is more than what she thought. She discovers more, and she discovers that she has power even without the goddess inhabiting her, and I do like that aspect of the story. But overall, it just felt too much like the same book. I felt like I was rereading The Darkening. If I wanted to reread The Darkening, I would just go on my shelves, grab The Darkening, and then reread it. I had such high hopes for this one because you had a really strong enemies to lovers story in the first one, and then in this one, it's kind of, you know, secondary to the story when it's just like, this is supposed to be kind of core to your selling. I mean, this is how you're marketing your book, you know, as an enemies to lovers duology. That's how it's being marketed. So if you're marketing a book in a particular way, I'm expecting to get that delivered to me. I was not. I think it did fall flat a lot of the time, and I think a lot of that has to do with Vesper really compartmentalizing a lot of everything that's going around her. It makes sense for her character, but it does hinder her a lot because we're not really seeing a lot of those friendships that she developed in the first book. I mean, the side characters in the first book were so well done, and they continue to be well done in this book. I really do like them. I just wish that there had been a little bit more focus on the characterization and bringing out these personalities and enriching those character dynamics, because again, it just felt like the first book again. So it felt really stagnant in comparison because I was just reading it and I'm like, okay, I've already read this. I will say that there were some interesting aspects of the world building in this book, with the way the god is different than the goddess and how he's reconstructing the city. I do think that was really interesting. It did remind me a little bit of steampunk in a way, and I thought that was cool. That was different. You know, they're not going into a wild storm, a wild rainforest. Now they're going into something a little bit more industrialized in a way, with magic and light. That was different, but the whole plot itself felt very much like the same exact book, and that was a little disappointing for me, especially because Darkening was, in my opinion, really well done. I did like it. I did like the icons and the magic system, but this book it felt too similar to the first book that it really didn't stand out, and it held my attention. I read it from beginning to end, but I wanted more. I expected more from it, you know? So, on that note, I do have to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. I wish I could give it a 4. I think initially I did give it a 4, but you know, reviews, especially when I read a book like 6 months ago, and I'm just like, this is how I'm feeling about it now, and this is, you know, really what I do think about it. I'm gonna have to give it 3 out of 5 stars. But, you know, to each their own. My opinion is mine. I did like it. I do recommend reading the series just to read it. First book, again, I enjoyed it quite a lot. You can check out my review. Just search The Darkening. But overall, it fell flat. But in any case, thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book-loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, happy reading.